and welcome to the first video in what will be a weekly series documenting my training for the next 17 weeks up to the Manchester Marathon on the 14th of April. What I will cover here before we get into my official training block next week is what I've been doing up till now in my training over the past couple of years and how I'm going to be approaching my switch into running for the next 16 weeks. So, a bit of background on my running history first. I have run one marathon before, the Dublin City Marathon in 2014. I say I ran that marathon. I maybe ran half of it and jogged the remainder. Finished in 4 hours and 40 minutes, and honestly it was a fight just to get that finished. In terms of training for that event, I didn't follow any sort of structured program. I've no idea what mileage I was doing, what intensity I was running at. I essentially went out for a run a couple of times every week with absolutely no structure to what I was doing. I've no record of what I trained leading up to that because I didn't even own a running watch. But I can tell you it was absolutely not the required training to go and run any sort of marathon. After finishing that race, I swore to myself I would never run again, and I did stick to that for quite a few years. Following that event, I got into training in the gym, got into strength training, which led to competing in some powerlifting competitions. Got reasonably strong, nowhere near being actually competitive in powerlifting realm, but for general population, relatively strong. My best efforts to date are a 202.5 kilo squat, which I hit earlier this year, and a 235 kilo deadlift. So in terms of running, we had that 2014 marathon. We've had a massive gap of 6 years then up until 2020 when lockdowns happened and gyms closed, no longer strength training, which was my focus. So got back into running a little bit during those lockdowns, spent 16 weeks, 4 months working up to attempting to run a marathon solo by myself around a 2.5 kilometer loop in the park. Felt like that training was reasonably productive, followed a standard training plan that I found for free online, worked up to a couple of 20-mile long training runs. On the day, went to run my 2.5 kilometer loops. Started off quite okay, hit the wall around the 32 kilometer mark. Legs absolutely packed it in on me, fell apart, couldn't finish, called it at that point. With the intention of re-peaking and tapering and trying that again, which was the rationale that I gave myself to pull out on that day, but that didn't happen. Lockdowns eased, got back into the gym, started focusing back on that, and just allowed running to fall to the wayside again, so never actually hit the distance in those 2020 efforts, which is a shame. Left me feeling that I had some unfinished business with running, but put it on the back burner again while I focus on my strength training. 2021-22 were completely focused on gym work then, strength training, powerlifting. Worked up, competed this year, hit that 202.5 kilo squat and 235 deadlift, which I was very pleased with. But had kind of lost a little bit of interest in that strength training in the gym. It had become quite monotonous, just squatting, deadlifting, benching every week. I felt like I needed a change in my training, which led me to this interest in getting back into some running. So where am I leading into the start of this 16-week training block for the Manchester Marathon? Over the past 3 to 4 months, started to build a little bit of base just from doing some aerobic running, so that's zone 2 running. Just been trying to build up that mileage so that I wasn't coming in completely cold into this training block. So I've been averaging around 30 kilometers a week for the past couple of months, which is relatively decent base coming into this. I would have liked to have had a little bit higher, but I needed this transition time to still be able to keep up my strength work in the gym and to be able to incorporate that running alongside that so that I could strike the balance of being able to do both at the same time, which is my intention. Where has that left me in terms of actual fitness just now? So a couple of months ago ran a 10k race, which I finished in 49 minutes 28 seconds, for the 10K. Quite pleased with that. It's a decent 5 minute per kilometer pace held across that, so I was very happy with that race. And just this week I tried to test my 5K time, which was just a solo run around the park, which was just over 24 minutes. And longest run to date in the last couple of months was a 20K run, which I covered in a little bit over 2 hours, I believe. So those are my starting metrics. Those are where I'm starting from going to this training block. The training plan that I'm running is a 16-week peak, which I will be mixing in gym work alongside that. So I'll be maintaining my strength training in the gym with the intention of keeping that at maintenance so that I can run through this marathon block, put all my efforts into my running so that I can peak to the best of my abilities and see where that will lead us in terms of finishing times on the day, and just maintain that strength training so that I can transition back into that post race and then maintain my running. So long term, the plan is to be able to cycle over and back between these. So switching focuses between one or the other, putting either running or lifting on maintenance for a period while I focus on one, and then being able to alternate back and forth between the two. What are my expectations for this training block and run? So I do expect to get quite a bit fitter than the times that I've just mentioned, but I'm not assigning any sort of time metrics to my goals for this one. I think there's a bit of a trap on that where you'll overtrain in terms of paces on training runs because you have that expectation of being able to run a certain time where you may not necessarily have built the fitness to just yet. So my focus is going to be training within the heart rate zones that are recommended on the training plan. I'll allow those to inform the paces that I'm running at, and then use that to do those projections of race time finishes. So the intention is to train as well as I can in the next 4 months, do everything that I can in terms of training volume, nutrition, recovery, keeping on top of all of this stuff, and seeing where that leaves me in 16 weeks for the race. I'm not going to say I'm targeting sub 4 hours, sub 3.5 hours, sub 3 hours. We're going to see where this lands. I don't want to attach an expectation to it and then not train in the correct manner because I'm trying to hit some goals in training, which is arbitrary in terms of actually getting the finishing time that I'm seeking to get. So we'll see where it all plays out in the end. My training block's going to kick off next week. We're going to be doing weekly summary videos of what the training looks like, any lessons I'm learning along the way, how I'm approaching stuff like training volume, nutrition, recovery. So that's going to be the approach. We're going to kick this off next week. I'll have another summary video of week 1's training coming up, so check back in for that if interested. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.